what we're going to be covering this time around is, in addition to the task spreadsheet, where of course you are going to be looking at the majority of your project information, we're going to be looking at some other places where you can pull up and surface all of the data from your projects. And we'll also be taking a look at this from a couple of different perspectives, like different roles in your studio or job functions. So if you're an artist, what would be the best place to go and look for all the information you need? Or if you're a supervisor, where would be the best places to go and find all the information you need? And then we'll bring it all together with some other dashboards and views that are more general and able to be used by everyone. And I'll caveat as well, since we did already go over the task spreadsheet in a lot of detail in session 2 when we were setting up our project, I'm not going to be covering any of that functionality again, even though you will see it mentioned on a few of the slides. So please hop back into the recording for that session if you'd like a refresher. And if you don't have that recording, as Michael already mentioned, please reach out and we'll make sure we get that over to you. So first up for our dashboards, we're going to take a look at, if I'm an artist, where can I go in Ftrack to see the information that is relevant to me? So of course, there is the My Tasks page, which is a built-in page in Ftrack, and it's designed so that whoever the user is that has logged into the workspace is going to be surfaced only the tasks that are assigned explicitly to them. So it kind of cuts away all of the other information and really gives them a chance to focus in on only the tasks and information that is relevant for the work that they're doing. And while we won't be covering Ftrack Connect, which is our integration platform, in any of these trainings, I will just quickly show how an artist would be able to launch the DCC application or creative tools that they're using from their task, if you happen to be using Ftrack Connect to access our integrations at your studio. So let's go back into our workspace over here. And as mentioned, the My Task page is a built-in page. You can access it from the top menu here. And this is what it looks like. So you can see it's a much more simplified layout than our task spreadsheet. This is more kind of a Kanban style, if you're familiar with that. And so this is displaying all the tasks that I have assigned to me, since I am the person that is logged into this workspace. All of these columns represent different statuses, if not already obvious. So I can see where all of my tasks are at. And there's a couple of other views that I can use for this if I prefer. So if I want to see my tasks displayed as a list, I can change that here. Or if I prefer more of a schedule, a timeline view, I can view that here. And I do need to just scroll back into the past to find some data for you to see here. Let's keep going. It's over here somewhere. There we are. Oops. Oh, I'm not quite sure where those tasks went, but you can see the project showing up here and you would have the tasks in the timeline. I won't bore you watching me scroll. So those are the few different layouts that are available to you depending on what your preference is as an artist. Some other information you can view here is up at the top, you can see a total tally of tasks. Please disregard that the numbers are not correct right now. We've noticed a little bug and we're looking into it. There's also time logging information that's available here, so you can keep track of how much time has been logged per day. And with this little hamburger menu here, I can see kind of the recent activities that I've taken, and I also have visibility on upcoming dates. So this is pulling from milestones that have been scheduled on the projects that I have tasks assigned on, so that I can be kept up to speed with any important deliveries that might be coming up in the future. All right, and now for the tasks themselves, I can of course click on the tasks and open up the sidebar so I can see all of the information I may need as I'm working through my tasks. I can click and drag these into another column to update the status very easily. You can see that there. And if I need to log time against my tasks, I can also hover over a task and click this little clock icon to open up the time logger tool. You can see that it's automatically populated it with the task that I've selected. And I either have the option to just hit start and time myself while I'm working. Of course, I do have to remember to hit stop when I'm done. That's the important thing. So I can just do that to log time, or I can input it manually if I prefer. So you can see that I can also select a different date. Maybe I forgot to put in a time log for yesterday, so I could input time there. And if I spent, let's say 3 hours on this particular task, I can just type it in like that and hit save. And you can see that that has created a new time log. Once I've started doing this, I can also switch over to my timesheet view. And you can see that I can enter all my time logs from here as well, or select other tasks to log against. All right, and last but not least, of course, you can see you can also filter tasks here. So if someone has a lot of tasks or they might be working on more than one project, they can access that information as well. And finally, in terms of actually launching launching task work from here, if I wanted to actually open up the DCC that I need to do my work in, if I hover over a task, you can see there's a little A icon here. And when I click on this, if I've got Ftrack Connect configured for my studio, you can see that I can actually open up whatever tool it is that I need to work in. I'm not going to do that though, because you're not here to watch me struggle through trying to figure out how to use Maya, but that's available for all your artists so they can open up their application in the task context that they need to be working in to do their work. All right, and that is the central hub that an artist can use to keep track of all their work in Ftrack. So moving on. That way, there we go. Supervisors. So where can they go within your workspace to see all the information they need? And supervisors can have different functions. Maybe they're supervising a department. Maybe they're more of a creative supervisor, like a CG supervisor, VFX supervisor, art director. So it could be possible that they want to see something like a team board where they can see assignments that have been given to team members, what everybody's working on. Or maybe they're just more concerned with versions and actually looking at the reviewable media, giving feedback, approving things. And of course, there's also always the schedule view or the task spreadsheet available to everyone as well. So let's go over and take a look at those particular areas. We're going to hop back over to a project now. Let's go back to Napo. So to access the team board, for starters, is done up in this team planner area right here. And there is a calendar, which I'll show briefly as well. So if I open up the team board, you can see that this is configured with, on the left-hand side, tasks that have not been assigned to a user yet. And then on the right-hand side here, there are the resources. Might be a little bit small in a screen share, but I've got all of my users listed here. You can see their usernames. And if they already have tasks assigned to them, you can see that here. And what's hidden below is these are actually tasks that have been assigned on another project. So also giving you visibility into what else your team members might have on their plate if they are working across multiple projects at the same time. And what this is designed to do is this will actually allow you to click and drag to assign these tasks over to an artist as needed. So this is a quick way for someone who maybe doesn't want to use the task spreadsheet to actually do assignments. So for a supervisor, this might be useful. Could also be used by production if they are the people that are going to be taking care of assigning tasks on your project. There's also some filters here. So if you want to filter down by any of the task types that you're using on your particular workflow, you can do that really easily here. And for resources, you can also filter down to users or user groups, which we went over how to set up last week. So if maybe you're just looking at assigning tasks of a specific type to a specific department, you can filter that down and set that up for yourself as well. And now going over to the team calendar. So it's a similar concept, but of course, viewing all of this on a timeline view. So I've got all of my users in this top area here. I can see what's assigned to them. If it's grayed out like this, it is actually a task, again, on another project, so you can see what else someone might have on their plate. And the section down below is showing me all of the tasks that haven't been assigned yet. So I can, again, click and drag to actually assign that to another user. And those are the two areas where you can do some task assignments outside of the task spreadsheet. But now let's go over to, of course, the bread and butter for supervisors, which is usually reviewing media. So of course, every project has a versions page, which we'll access over here. I'll save that. And let me go over to the thumbnail view for a second. So there are two different views that you can apply for your versions page, either a spreadsheet layout or a thumbnail layout, depending on what the preference is. And this is where all of the media that has been uploaded or published to your project is going to live. It can be opened up from here with our review player and reviewed. We are going to be covering review and approval in our next session though, so I'm not going to touch on any of these features today. But this can be the central place where your supervisors go to review and put in feedback. And in order to simplify this for them, you can set up different views the same way that you can with your task spreadsheet. So you can see that there is your filter panel here. If I want to go ahead and maybe just look for everything that's pending review, I can filter down to that very quickly. And I can also add in different attributes. So if there's additional information that I want to see on my versions, I can add that in here. That will display in this area below. Or if I flip over to the layout view, it will add a new attribute column here. And I can also pull in information from the task spreadsheet. So of course, we know that making sure you're checking your task due date before you give a whole bunch of notes is sometimes important. So you could add that attribute in and have that all set up as your view to pass off to your supervisor. So if we want to save this now, of course, same as our task spreadsheet, we'll save that. And this will be my pending review view, and I'll hit save. So there we are. And of course, same thing as the task spreadsheet, we'll go into manage views, select our view, and then choose who we want to share it with. So we can share that out with our supervisor, and they'll have that view available that they can just check on throughout the day to see what is available for them to review. All right, and now let's start getting into the heavy stuff. So producers, of course, they are probably going to be focused mostly on the task spreadsheet and all of the information that can be surfaced there, but there are a few other areas that they can use to get whatever information they need as well. So we're going to start looking at the overview page as well in a little bit more detail. And we'll start off with the projects and users view and what information you can see there. I'm also going to go over our capacity forecasting tool. And I will make sure it's very clear going in before I start showing this feature is that this forecaster in its current form is meant to be used looking at future work. It is not configured to pull in any actuals or take into account tasks that are currently being worked on any active projects you have. This is very much meant to be used for, we're considering taking on a new project in the future. There's this amount of bid days for these departments, and do we actually have enough resources to complete this on time if we decide to take this on? So I'll show you what that looks like as well. And then we'll be going over some of the out-of-the-box reports that are accessible depending on what sort of overall project information, as well as some user workload and time tracking information you might want to have visibility on. So let's start off with the overview page. We're going to hop into my other workspace now. And so we're on the overview page, and this built-in dashboard right here is the projects and users view. So this timeline view might be a little bit familiar because we took a quick look at it last week when we were talking about calendar events. So a quick refresher, that's when you want to do very high level scheduling. You can just click and drag your mouse on the timeline for the project and put in an event that will kind of span how long you might need a specific task type or a department to work on your project. So you'll select your task type from your list. You'll input your bid days down here. So you can create all of those on this page. And you can see as well that it gives you visibility on tasks that have been scheduled across your project. And you can see all of the active projects that you have in your studio up in this top area here. So you have visibility across multiple projects all at the same time. And this section down below, you can see that I have that same information, but broken down per user instead. So I'm able to see all of the tasks that each of my users have assigned to them. And I can also see which of the events they have been allocated to. So an easy way for producers to get a more broad bird's eye view of what either might be going on in the project that they're working on or multiple projects that they might be handling at the same time. And this area can be filtered and you can apply different settings. So if I maybe want to color code things, I can do that from here. Let's color code our tasks by the status, let's say. So I've got that there. I can also color code my events. So I change them to color code with the types, and I can do that for the users down below in this area here as well. So let's do the same thing. There we are. And for filters, I also have the ability to set filters for the projects and the users. So if I want to filter down and maybe just see specific task types, if I maybe want to filter down and just see specific projects as an example, I've got my list of projects I can add in there. So there's a lot of flexibility with this particular page, depending on what you might want to see. So that's a project and users view. And now let's take a look at the capacity forecast. So as mentioned again, this is very much looking at future work, not actuals, but I am going to be using the events that I've already got created on this particular project for these purposes. So the capacity forecast tool is going to be pulling information that you've plugged in from your calendar events. So you'll be creating one of these and making sure that you've assigned a type and that you've put in some bid days down below here. And I'll show you what this is going to do. So I've got that loaded over here. And in this top row here, you can see that it's showing the layout task type. And we've got columns that are corresponding to weeks of the year. And if I just expand this, you can see that it's showing that project. And what's displayed in the weeks here is the total amount of bid time that I put in for this particular calendar event for the layout type. And it's divided it against the total number of weeks that I've actually scheduled that event over. So I can see right now in this particular case that each week I require 5 bid days worth of work to be completed for the amount of time that I've scheduled out my layout. And down below, what's being shown here when I expand this is my layout user group that I created in the system settings. And what this is showing me is, because I have 2 artists available here, that I have a total of 10 working days available in that particular department. And the summary row is then letting me know that we're all good. We still have capacity. We've got enough people to complete the amount of work that we're anticipating in this particular department for this project. So this is what the capacity forecast tool is designed to use. Again, this is not looking at, do these particular users have any tasks currently assigned to them that might conflict with them taking up this additional work. It's very much looking at the future. So let's go over how you can set one of these up from scratch if you're interested in doing so. So we're going to go to Create Dashboard down at the bottom of this bar on the left-hand side here. And we're going to select Capacity Forecast. And we'll give it a name. And you can see that I have a big, long, empty list of every single task type that exists in my domain. But what I can do here is go into the filters, and depending on how you want to set this up, you can either filter for specific types, or if you want to do this quickly, you can just hide empty rows. So if I toggle that on, you can see that it's brought it back to just my 2 task types that I have created from the events that I've put in. And there you are, but you may notice that I don't have my user groups for comparison set up yet. So if I want to add that in and make sure that I can actually compare my bid time to the users that I have available, you can see that as I hover over where it says layout here, I've got this little icon appearing that says add groups. So I'm going to click on that. And now I've got a list of all of the user groups that exist in my workspace. So I'll grab my layout one. And I'm going to want to toggle on the summary row. So I have that nice summary letting me know if I'm under or over capacity. We'll hit save. And you can see now I've got my layout user group, and I can see how many days worth of work I have available there. And this will also update if you maybe are over capacity. So if I go back here, and let's change this to something unreasonable like that. And do a little refresh. And you can see that that's now gone into the negative to give me a heads up that I will need more people if I want to fit that many bid days per week. And that's what you can achieve with the capacity forecast tool if that's something that you might think is useful for forecasting future work coming into your studio. And finally, we'll head into our out-of-the-box reports. So that is another feature you can access from the top menu up here. So we'll click on reports. And first up is our time tracking report. So you can see in the UI right here, it's giving you just an overall view of all of the time logs that your users have put in. You can also group it by different information. So if you want to see this broken down per task type instead, for example, you can change that there. And if you do want to see some more granular information, if you just click on the row here, you can see that it will open it up and give you each time log broken down line by line. There's also some filters on the side here. So if you want to look for a specific date range, just filter down to specific projects or anything, you can access that on the side here. And you can also export this out to Excel if you need to do anything externally with any of this time log information. And when you do export it, it is going to break it down as the very granular individual time logs like we see in this side portion here. It's not going to just give you this overall total as we're seeing in the UI. So that's the first one we have. Up next is projects. And one additional thing I'll mention, since it's appearing in the filters here, because we haven't really touched on it yet, is you can see that there are two project statuses. We've got active and hidden. I'm just going to select active. So what this allows you to do is, let's say you've wrapped a project, you don't need to think about it or look at it anymore, and you would like to hide it from the Ftrack UI. So it's not cluttering things up, so things are a little bit cleaner for all of your users to navigate. What you can do when you open up the sidebar for the project in its entirety over on the info page here, you can see that there is a project status, and you can actually flip this over to hidden, and it will just hide it from the UI for you. And if you need to ever bring that back, going over to the projects tab and clicking on view hidden projects will let you navigate to that project still. So that information is still there. We're not deleting anything. It's just allowing it to be hidden for you. After that quick segue, of course, back to our report here. You can see just some very high level information for your projects based on here. So what your due date is, the percentage of tasks that have been completed so far, and a little bit of time log information. What's the total amount of hours that have been logged against the project versus your total billable or bid hours that you've put in. And then here we're getting into some more workload and time log information. So this workload report, and I do need to grab a time range for this to work. So please bear with me. I'm going to have to do some time traveling back to 2021 to grab some data. So let's do this. Say to the end of March. There we are. All right, so what this is doing is within the time range that you've selected, it's looking at what are the total amount of working hours that are available within that time range. And another quick segue for how you can configure this depending on what a work week looks like in your studio is in the system settings, which I already have open over here. There is this scheduling area, and there's a settings tab, and you can see that you can configure some information on your work week. So I've currently got this set up to be a standard 8-hour workday and a standard Monday to Friday work week. You can configure that however you need to for your studio. If your workday length is different, if your work week is different, maybe you're lucky, you work somewhere where you get a 4-day work week, lucky you. You can make all those changes here, and that will make sure that what is being calculated in terms of available working hours on this report is accurate to your studio. And then what that's doing is it's comparing that amount of time to the amount of bid time that has been assigned to the tasks that each of these users have assigned to them on their projects. And then this percentage is letting you know, out of that total available working time they have, what is the percentage of that time that they are being used. So this is a really great place to go if you're maybe checking on who has capacity to take on more work, if you've got something else coming in shortly. And we'll also give you a little bit of information on how much available time they have, how much time they've logged, and you can export all of this information to Excel as well. And then finally, these two user and project breakdown reports are some more time log information. So you'll always be selecting a specific month to be looking at. Let's go back here. And you can select a specific project. Let's just use Napo as an example. And then what this report will do is it will show you users who have logged time or potentially users who have missing time logs. Since my artists are not real people, I am going to be showing users with missed time, so that some stuff will get populated here. So let's run this report. And what this is actually showing me is all of my users who have any time logs that don't total that total 8-hour workday that I configured in my system settings. And I can also apply some little overlays here to help that stand out. So this could be a quick way for you to go and do a quick check on where maybe people have forgot to log their time and send them some reminders for that. And then for the project breakdown, it's very similar, but instead of seeing it just solely based on user, you can also see per project how many time logs have been input. So we'll go again to a specific month. You can filter on specific resources if you're just looking for specific artists, but you can also leave this blank. Same thing with the project. So I can select a specific project if I want, or multiple projects even. Or I can leave it blank as well. And I'll show you what the expand does in a second, but if I just run this first, what you are seeing here is now the list of users that have input time logs for this particular project. So Spring doesn't have any time logs in this particular time range. So we've just got Napo appearing there, but I'm seeing a total of all of the time logs they've entered. And if I expand one of these projects and run this again, you can see that now it's giving me more granular information in terms of which task types those time logs were actually put in against. So just breaks down the time that's being spent on your project in a little bit more detail if you need to have that available to you to compare against the bid time you're tracking on your project. And again, you can export all this over to Excel, CSV, and PDF as well as needed. And that is reports. So let's move on from here. And we're now going to start getting into just all of the other dashboard functionality that we have. So there are some built-in dashboards that you can access on both the overview page and the project page. And in addition to that, there is also the ability to go ahead and create your own custom dashboards if you wanted to configure and surface information in specific ways. And of course, very similar to our task spreadsheet, to our versions page, we can also share these out with other team members if these are going to be views that are useful to them. So we're going to start off with the project dashboards first, since we're a little bit more familiar with the areas on an individual project in the Ftrack UI, and then we'll hop back over to the overview page because there's quite a bit more we can cover there. So let's go back to Napo over here. And of course, there is this dashboards area up at the top with a little drop down. And these three dashboards are the ones that have been set up and shipped with Ftrack out of the box. So they look a little something like this. We've got some graphs, we've got some little insight widgets, and we can see versions. The VFX one is laid out exactly the same way, but has a couple of other task types for things like tracking and rotoscoping that are not usually needed in animation. So these are kind of these little graphing and reporting dashboards that are accessible. And then the last one we have is the task board. So you may notice that this looks very, very similar to the My Tasks page that the artists have access to. Over here, however, you can actually use this to just quickly track the statuses of all the tasks on your project. It's showing everything across the project, not specifically what a logged in user has been assigned to. So very similar to how your artist can do it, you can just drag and drop to update tasks to other statuses, can filter on types and all of that. And these can also be configured if you would like your status columns to map to different statuses. So I'll show you quickly before we get into creating a brand new dashboard from scratch, how you can configure this as well. So again, we'll be going into our system settings, and we're going to be scrolling back up to our workflow section that we used previously when we were setting up our workflow schemas. And this option right here that says task boards, we're going to click on that. You can see as well that you can configure the My Tasks page in the same way if you want to change which status columns appear. We're just going to be looking at the projects one for now. So I'm going to hit edit. And let's ignore this column for now. We'll just look at these four here. So these are the four columns that I have on my project, as you can see. And if I want to add another column, I can click Add Column. And let's say for some crazy reason, I want to have a completely separate column for anything that is in revision or retake. So let's call it that. I can click on this little arrow icon to drag it into another order if I want it to be somewhere else. So there we go. And then the last thing I need to do is from my unmapped statuses column over here, I need to drag the statuses that I want to map to this particular column. So obviously that's going to be revise. And this is important so that Ftrack knows what status to update your task to once you do drag it into that particular column. And since I'm here, I'm noticing ready to start should probably be mapped to not started. So we'll fix that also. And now we'll hit save. So you can see I've now got my new revise column showing up there. And if I do a refresh, I've now got my additional column showing up on my task board. So you can configure this so that it will work for the statuses you're tracking on your projects. And make sure, of course, it's working with the statuses that you're using on your workflow schemas. All right, so that's the task board. That's it for the out-of-the-box dashboards. But what if you want to create some new ones for yourself? So we're going to click our little Create Dashboard button right here. And you can see that you've got the option to select between 3 different layouts. So just a full page layout, 2-column or 3-column. I'm going to go with a 2-column one. We'll just call this test for now and hit create. And this brings you to a page where you can see that you can select from a whole bunch of different types of widgets. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to explain each and every single one of these. But a little tip is as you're looking at this, if you hover over these, a tooltip will appear that will give you a little description of what each of these widgets is meant to do. So that can help inform you on what ones you might want to use, depending on what kind of reporting you're looking to generate. So I'm just going to select a few. Let's grab some of these status graphs. You can see that it's put the word added up top here to let me know that I've added that into my dashboard once I've clicked on it. And there are some other widgets that you can see there's a little plus sign in the corner. This is to indicate that you can actually use this same widget multiple times as you configure your dashboard. So I'm going to grab one of these. And if you keep your eye over here, you'll see that as I click on Insights, it's actually adding it in multiple times. So you can reuse that as often as you want. So I'll just stick with that for now. And I'm going to hit done. And of course, you may have noticed that all of those widgets have all gone on the left-hand side of the page here. So I can move those around if I like. Maybe let's put that over there. And maybe that one too. This guy. There we are. And for some of these widgets, but not all, if you click on the gear icon here, there is some filtering or some configuration that you can do. So for my latest versions, maybe I only want to see my animation publishes as an example. So I can set this up so that it's only going to look for versions that have been associated with an asset type of animation. And I'll hit save. And I can do the same thing with these insight widgets as well if I click on the gear menu. So I'll click the plus sign. And I can set this up so that it will be looking at any of the objects that I've configured in my workflow schema. I am just going to leave it with task for simplicity's sake. I'll give it a title. So let's say this is anim not started. I can choose for a count, so just a total count of the tasks it's looking at. Or if I'd like it to maybe calculate and read some of the bid time, I can do that instead. I'll look for my animation type. I will have it take a look at a couple of statuses. So since this is anim not started, I'm going to take a look at those. I can choose whether or not I only want it to look at tasks that I've set up as billable, so tasks I want people to log time against or not. And I can add as many of these to this insight as I want. So let's do anim in progress. And I'm just going to double check that that's saved. Oh, this was happening to me yesterday where it's not saving properly. So let's see if this will go through this time. Okay, there we go. So now they've saved. Perfect. All right, so let's, I'm not gonna bother configuring all of these right now. So let's say we are all set up with our widgets. We can also share this with other team members from here. So I'll click the share button and you can see it's exactly the same options as the other places where we can set up configured views. We can either share with everybody or we can share with specific users or user groups that we've selected here. So I'm gonna hit save. And you can see I've now got my custom dashboard. If I need to change it, I can click and edit there, or I can delete it even if I'm not happy with it. And I've got all of my graphs. I've got my little widget appearing up here, and I've got my latest versions down below. And that's how you can go ahead and set up your own custom dashboard on a project. And another little tip for these is that you can also filter the information that appears on this particular dashboard based on what you've selected from the outliner. So as an example, if I just want to see this data, but only for sequence C005, I can click on that in my outliner, and you can see that that's updated. It's taken away a few of the task types from there. Same if I click on that. And I can do the same thing with lists. So if I've got any lists where I'd like to view that information, you can see that that's also updating depending on what I've selected. So that's kind of neat that you can do that as well. All right, and that is everything for your project dashboards and how you can set that up. So let's head back over to our overview page and start looking at dashboards and configuring custom dashboards there. So back over to our overview page. Of course, this is one of the built-in dashboards. We've already covered our projects and users view. So the other built-in dashboards that we have are, of course, all of these ones up here. Now, the projects in the users view dashboard here, we covered a little bit last week. So, of course, there's also the card and list view, where you can see just at a very high level your user information. You can pull in different attributes depending on what information you'd like to track against them. But you can also view this as a list, as a timeline view if you'd like to see their task assignments. And you can do the same thing with projects as well. So you can see we've got the card view, the list view, as well as the timeline view, where you can see all of that information broken down per project as opposed to per user. And these views can be filtered, and you can apply settings, same way you could with the view that was both the projects and the users. So if I go over to the settings and I want to color code everything, I can do that there. I've got some different group by options. So maybe I want to group it by the parent. So you can see I've now got the list of all of the shots displayed here as well. Let me go back to the default though, just for argument's sake. And I can also filter from here. So maybe on the timeline filter, I just want to filter down to a specific task type. Say lighting, because I think I've got quite a bit showing up there. So there we go. And I've now filtered down to just my lighting tasks. Maybe I just want to look for specific projects. I can filter down as well. And it's the exact same filters on the user's view as well. And after you've set up these filters, if you would like to save this as a custom dashboard, one of the options is you can see down below, you can hit Save Dashboard. And it's going to give you this little message and let you know that the project's dashboard is actually a default that you can't save over, but it's giving you the option to put in a new dashboard name, and this will save it as a custom dashboard for you. So I could call this my lighting dashboard and hit save. And you can see that that has now added it to my list. And these are all the custom dashboards I've created down below over here. So that's how you can create a custom dashboard just from putting some filters and some setting changes on one of our out-of-the-box dashboards. And the other two out-of-the-box dashboards that we have are the tasks and the versions views. So this will either show you whether you've configured it as a list or as cards, just a list of all of the tasks that are active in your workspace, and same thing with the versions as well. You can see either as card or as a list that I can see all of the versions that I may need to review here. So if you have a supervisor, let's say, that's working across multiple projects at the same time, and maybe you want to set up a review page where they're not having to go into each individual project one by one. They just have one central place where they can see any of the media that they may need to review. You could also do it from over here. So I can maybe filter down to just a couple of different projects. So let's say these ones. And of course, maybe I only want to see versions that are pending review. So I can set up a view like that. There we are, and hit Save Dashboard and set that up as a review dashboard. I already have one of these set up, so I'm not going to hit Save. But then what that would do is you can see I've got my For Review dashboard in this area here. I can click on that, and that will bring me to this dashboard. And this could be another way that you share with your supervisors to give them a place to review. So sharing dashboards, however, you'll see there's a little ellipses menu that will show up if you hover over the name of the dashboard here. You'll click that. You can see you can edit the name and delete it if you ever need to, but you can also share. So exactly the same thing. I can keep it visible for only me. I can share with everyone, or I can select users and user groups and share it out as well. Now, what if you want to create a dashboard with one of the custom objects that you've created in your workflow schema? Because obviously those aren't accessible up here. Very similar to when we created that capacity forecast dashboard, you can also create a dashboard from scratch down below. Select cross-project view up here instead of the capacity forecast option. And you can see that there's this drop-down menu for type, where you've got access to all of the different custom objects that exist in your workspace. So I'm just going to select asset build to keep it simple. But now I could set up a dashboard. It will look very similar to the tasks or versions dashboard. That's just going to show me all of the asset builds in my domain. So this can be my asset build view, and I'll hit save. And there we are. I've got a view that is showing me all of my asset builds, and then I can go ahead and set whatever filters or settings I want to apply to these as well. And that's all of the different areas where you can go ahead and customize and create your own dashboards, share them out with other team members, and make sure that you have other ways to view all of the information in your workspace. And the last thing we'll cover, and this is going to be more of a demo rather than a training, is the third option that you may have seen in that Create Dashboard widget is to create custom web widgets. And the reason why I'm not going to be training you on how to do this is because in order to set this up, you do actually need to do some work in the API. So this will require you to create essentially a web page through our JavaScript API, where you maybe want to surface specific information from your Ftrack workspace. And then that will be displayed as a web widget within this dashboards page. So some examples is maybe you have some very specific information that needs to be pulled into a report, or a very specific format for that report that isn't offered in any of the out-of-the-box reporting that we have. You could create a custom web widget that would pull up and surface that information for you so that you can still view it in that way in your Ftrack workspace. So I have an example of what this may look like here, and it is not any sort of meaningful data that you would likely need to see on your project. This is very much just a proof of concept. But let's say for that graphing example, I've got a little example graph over here that I can select. And in this case, it gives me the option to generate it for any of the projects that I have. And then I can either view it in a couple different ways. And you can see I've got this nice pie chart graph with all of this data available to me now. So this is just an example of something that you can achieve with a web widget. So you can explore that with some of our API tools if that's something that interests you. And of course, if you don't have resources, oops, I've lost my, there we go. I've lost my slideshow. If you don't have resources at your studio that are able to actually build these, you can also get in touch with us, reach out to your sales rep or your customer success manager to put us in touch with our solutions delivery team. And our solutions delivery team has built out some of these dashboards for other clients. We'd be happy to help you out in creating one for yourself as well. And that brings us to the end of today's training, there is a little bit of homework again, as usual. So as not mentioned on here, of course, take a look at those out-of-the-box dashboards, familiarize yourself with them, see what you can use those for, and then try your hand at creating your own custom dashboards in both the overview and the project page, and then go ahead and share them with some people, get some feedback.
Once again, from the whole team here at Ftrack, thanks for spending your time with us. Hope you guys took something away, and thanks for attending. Wish everybody a pleasant day.
Thanks, everyone.